All right, guys, welcome back to Frugal Homestead. So today I want to talk about how much wood our tiny house burns. Now, for those of you who don't know, our tiny house is just under 500 square feet. So I would honestly call it more like 450 because of the cabinet area that's all closed off, the underneath the steps area it's all closed off. But with that said, our stove, most people would say, is too small for this house, even though it's rated at about 900 square foot, because you always want to almost double your stove size in your house. But I'm going to explain why it works for us and how much wood we burn. So let's get into it. Now, the first thing to understand is, since we are not quite yet moved in, we don't run this thing full tilt all the time. Generally, we set it at our lowest setting, and then twice a week we come down and crank it up just to burn off anything that might build up in the flue. We haven't had any problems. We're just doing it because we can. Now, we had expected this thing to burn a heck of a lot more wood. And I want to lay it out based on what kind of wood we're burning, as far as a block or a chunk like this. So when we're burning chunks like this, it's about equivalent to, you can put 3 to 4 of these in there, and then it will burn for 4 to 6 hours, depending on what you have the damper set at. When it's closed all the way down, we like to come down every 6 hours and fill it. That doesn't mean it needs to be filled. That's when we like to do it in order to keep the temperature regulated the same all the time. Now, if it's very cold out, we get about 4 hours out of this because we crank it up. Now, the blocks end up going in 3 across there. And we can get 6 hours out of these when it's set all the way down. And once again, there's plenty of coals in there when we're coming down. That's just when we choose to. So I want to break this down into third of a chords, because I think that explains a little bit better. So if we're not in the negative factor, because lately here in Ohio, we've been getting some crazy temperatures. But if your nights are getting down to about 20 degrees, like they do a lot of times here in Ohio, and your days are at 30, 40, then this thing can run on about a half cord, I'd say, every month. All right, in the fall and stuff like that, you probably could run at a third of a cord every month. All right, now that's based on, like, if you're figuring in blocks, one heaping truckload in my truck is $40, and not counting gas, and then that would be a third of a cord. So you can look at it like $60 a month to heat this place. Now, obviously you have to be home, to run this. Now, we have not used anything else, but when we get moved in, the plan is we can still have coals in this if we fully stuff it. 8 to 10 hours later, you can come down here and you'll still have coals in it when it's turned all the way down. I mean, all the way choked down. So our intentions are, in order to not have temperature drop, is at night, for now, to run an electric heater that will only kick on when the temperature in the house goes below 68. Then the heater will pick up the slack. But currently, we don't even know that that's going to be necessary, because the other thing that we didn't think about was heat distribution. So at the end of this video, I'm going to take you upstairs and then also show you here in the kitchen, which is the room behind you away, the temperatures. And I think you'll be surprised at how evenly the temperature is, because in most of these houses, all the heat goes up there. And that didn't happen here. Now, the walls, and why this tiny house reacts different than, say, most do. When I built this place, I really wanted to sheet the outside, but we couldn't afford it. I thought about spray foaming. Same thing. At the time when we were building that part of the house, I just did not have the budget to do it, because I knew it was coming for me for the fit and finish inside. So what I did was I bought foam, 3.5 to 4 inch, because I bought different places. Some of it was even used. And that's what we put against our 2x4s on the inside where our metal's mounted to. And then I spray foamed the edges. If it was too tight for spray foam, some of them we even just caulked because they were right against the poles. But that basically made a sealing layer somewhat. But foam really sucks, guys, as an insulator, unless it's spray foam. Unless you can literally seal it tight, it really is not that great. So then we put in fiberglass insulation. Now, it was R11 on the walls, R13 on the ceiling. All right, So that gave a whole second layer of insulation. And then third, right behind my drywall, which has space because fiberglass is not tight, it breathes, we put Reflectix. And for those of you who don't know what Reflectix is, it's basically like the foil bubble wrap. All right, and the R value is supposed to be having airspace on either side, but the fact is just the reflecting quality behind our drywall is what really seals this place up. I mean, it really does. We even taped with metal tape the seams to make sure that it was sealed up. So with those 3 layers of insulation, a lot of people said we went overboard with insulating this place. I would not change it for a moment. It was the best investment we made in this whole house. And I want to take you to show you the temperatures and to show you why insulating this place is so important. Now, mind you, we only turned the stove up because today's the day we're supposed to run it hot. But it's only been filled once and basically sits down here turned all the way down. So we generally keep this place about 50 or 60 degrees when we're not down here. So I want to show you though how close the temperatures downstairs are versus upstairs. All right, so here's our stove. Upstairs, we walk through the doorway into the kitchen. So heat has to travel all the way around here. Let's make sure you guys can see that. So 57.7 to 58.1 the moment I picked it up because it's hotter. 35% humidity. So 57.9, you can see it's going back down to a reasonable level. Literally it changes that fast when I pick it up. So we're running about almost 58. And I want to do this real time because I don't want anybody to say we're cheating or anything. So come upstairs. All right. And I'm going against the cold wall here. 60.6. You guys see that? Let's see here. 60.6, 60.8. So, as you can see, that's off the ground. Not quite the same as the cabinets, but close. Now, if I put it up higher, obviously, say you put it here, you're going to see it climb the higher you go. But the reality is 2 degrees difference between your upstairs and downstairs. You're hard pressed to do that in most, even newer homes, to keep it that consistent. So it has worked a dream. Now, one of the ways we did that is an open ceiling. And there is spots where the heat can escape to get up. But I don't have one in there now, but a lot of times I'll have one in the bathroom here, and I do leave this door open. And it's 2 degrees less in there than it is here. So it's 4 degrees less than upstairs. But we're losing a little bit because of the exhaust fan. So you can't kind of get around that. You got to have that. But also, the open-ended sides there means if the bathroom door is closed for some reason, heat can still get in there. And it comes out the bottom under the door because it's cut high. So it really has worked out wonderful heating our little home here. And if you were to say to yourself, in a winter season, let's say, you could probably easily get away with 4 cord, 5 cord, and have plenty extra because you always want to have extra in case things go really, really bad. You know, and honestly, you could be probably as simple on a good year as 3 cord, be enough wood. But if you have a year like this year when we're starting to see negative temperatures left and right and lots of snowfall, honestly, you'd probably want to have the 4 to 6 just to be safe. And personally, I think that's extremely good. I think that's extremely low amount of wood. Now, mind you, we don't get picky over our wood. I could say, yeah, you could have 3 cord of red oak out there or 3 cord of beech, and that's probably all you really would need. But we just use whatever falls or whatever comes in. You know, You can look in there now and see all kinds of different blocks that we go pick up. We don't get picky about all that. We burn whatever we burn. As long as it's not pine, we'll burn it. There may be pieces of poplar. There may be pieces of basswood. There may be pieces of soft maple. There may be pieces of oak. It just depends. But we just wanted to share these numbers with you. I think that you can see how small this stove is. And when you crank it up, it gets hot. And the reburn technology in the top, as this is more like the Gen 1, where they just put the perforated plate in the top and it would reburn the gases, that is super efficient. I know a lot of guys like the old stoves, they don't like these new ones and stuff, but this thing is insanely efficient. And if you turn her down, once she's good and hot like that, she would just sit there and reburn them gases like crazy out the top. You can see it doing it right there. And it just sits there and reburns the gases, and the smoke that comes out outside is just clean and clear. It's amazing how efficient and clean these things burn. I would say that if this place was not insulated the way it is, I would probably need double the size stove in here, just as a safety kind of thing. Because this stove, really, most guys say this barely heats a 400 square foot cabin, these Century small stoves, because they're not insulated like we are. Insulation is the key. So we were able to run a much smaller stove because we invested more in insulation. You could do it the other way around, invest more in your stove and run a little less insulation. It's kind of up to you. So I hope this kind of unveiled how much wood we burn. I know a lot of people that have tiny houses or even small cabins don't really share how much wood they go through, or if they do, it can be so far across the scales based on how their house is insulated, the size of their stove, how they run it, if they have other sources of heat, or the guys up in Canada probably burn double what we do because they're using a lot of pine up there or a lot of spruce, just other kinds of wood that are not as dense as what we have here in Ohio. So I kind of wanted to throw our 2 cents in and share with you what we're seeing so far. Obviously next year, I'm going to actually measure out an entire and time how long it takes to burn through it and just use like 1/3 of a cord and actually burn through it and get you a real time trial and be able to bring you guys that video in one of the worst weeks or worst months, I should say, and just see how much wood we actually burn. And that will help you guys kind of plan for if you're building a tiny house or you have a square footage in a house, what size stove you need, what amount of wood you'll need, etc. So we appreciate you guys coming along, and I'll see you in the next one. Whew, it's getting hot in here.